Yeah, the one from the agenda. He's already on, so good.
He's on?
Yep, he's-
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Recording is
Just connect him on there right there. Yeah. So to where we were, we've done the roll call. Are there any additions or deletions who are from the agenda?
I have an addition to item number 10, which is the request for the chamber for use of public rights way. We're going to add also the use of fire pits on streets unnamed. I don't know yet. Those are.
Okay. All right, anything else? Right, that takes us to adoption of the consent calendars. Anything on there anybody wants to pull up?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second. Motion made by Beth, seconded by Russ. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Next up is public comments. This is established time on the agenda for anyone in the public who wants to address something not otherwise on the agenda.
Hi, my name is Jeannie Jambor. I live at 3401 Ponderosa, and I've been an avid participant in the athletic park master planning process. And I'd like to make a comment following last month's October 11th council meeting, where there was a long discussion where council gave staff and ultimately the consultants their input after reviewing public comments. The public comment period for this process was actually open until October 20th, so well past the time where council got their materials. Preston sent me all these comments yesterday, and I read through them, and there was 121 individuals that ultimately submitted written comments. However, more than 60 individuals, so almost half the public comments received, came in after staff's report was submitted to council. So in essence, council was only seeing half the picture from the public. When looking at the responses by date and also quantifying them, it appears that the early comments that were included in the October meeting materials tended to favor option 3, which introduced more baseball and soccer fields. But if you tally all the public comments, the sentiment changed, with results showing that in fact, 51% of individuals submitting comments favored option 1, 37% favored option 3, and 9% favored option 2. In addition, one comment that wasn't made in any of the public comments, but I think should carry significant weight in the overall direction, is the demographics of the community. According to the Colorado State Office of Demography, there's approximately 62% of our community is over the age of 45. And only 13% of the population is under 17 years of age. And the projection into the future for the next 25 years is estimated that the 45 plus age group is actually what drives the future population of our community, while the under 17 age group is forecasted to stay relatively the same at 13%. So I believe it's in the public's interest that the park has amenities that serve the majority of the community. But currently, the different options call for 4 to 5 soccer fields, 1 to 2 baseball fields, and a bike park, which are for use by the minority of the community population and actually will encompass a majority of the athletic park. So I appreciate the time and effort that's been put into the process so far. And I understand at next Monday's third public meeting, we're going to see a fourth option, which incorporates council's direction, which eliminates the solar array and dog park and reduces the number of pickleball courts, which can be enjoyed by all age groups within the community. So I'm not sure if there'll be another public comment period on this new option. So I wanted to take this opportunity to put it on the public record that in fact, the majority of the public comments made during the entire public comment period actually favored option 1. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Appreciate it. Anyone else have a public comment? All right, that takes us to public requests and presentations. First one is the presentation of the 2022 fiscal year audit. Pete Blair is on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good. I'm going to go through the governance letter real quick. And then I'm going to go through that management report. And then I'm just going to go over a couple brief things on the audit. On the governance letter, it should be like a 2-page letter to the board.
Yep.
And if you go down that governance letter, probably about the second paragraph, it talks about pronouncements. There was no new pronouncements that affected this audit this year. There is a new one coming out next year, but I'm not sure it's going to have a major effect. It's how we treat leases and stuff like that. If you go down about halfway down that page, the only estimates in the audit was depreciation costs, mainly in the enterprise funds, which is the water and the sewer fund, and also in the governmental wide statements. If you go down about to probably about the third paragraph from the bottom, we did make about 18 audit adjustments. Mainly they were accrual entries, and they were bringing your books back on a governmental wide basis. And this is probably routine for most audits. I'm going to skip now and go to that management report. And that's the one that's got a whole bunch of graphs in it. And if you go to the first graph, it talks about fund balances and working capital. And working capital is for the enterprise funds, and fund balance is for the governmental funds. So if you look at the first column, which is the general fund went from about 2.9 million to about 3.5 million compared to 2021. So the general fund actually went up about 600,000, which was about 20% increase in fund balance. If you go to the water fund, it actually increased too, as far as on a working capital basis, by about 470,000, which was about a 14% increase. And then if you look at the sewer fund, it increased just a little bit less than 100,000, or about an 8% increase. So overall, if you took all your funds on accrual basis, you increased your net position by about $2 million, which is really good. In fact, the financial statements look really good compared to 2021. If you go to the next graph, it talks about how the revenues came in compared to the budget. And if you take that first column there, the general fund, you had budgeted revenues of about just a little bit over 3 million. You took in about 3.8 million, which was an increase of about 685,000. The big increase was in sales tax, building permits, and mineral leasing, which tells me that we're starting to get more growth into the town. If you go to the water fund, it actually went down compared to what you budgeted for, but you had budgeted a lot of water taps and sewer taps, and those just did not come in compared to the budget. If you go to the next graph, this is the actual expenditures compared to what you budgeted. And if you look at the general fund, you budgeted about 3.3 million in expenses, ended up being just a little bit less than 3.2. So your budget was pretty close to what you budgeted for. If you look at the water fund, you budgeted about 1 million, just a little over a million, ended up being about 600,000 less than the budget. And all that was, you had budgeted a whole bunch of doing some repairs and maintenance costs, and you didn't do those costs in 2022 for the water fund. And then if you look at the sewer fund, that actually went above what you had budgeted by about 95,000. That was also repairs and maintenance in the sewer fund. So if you go by these graphs, overall, the town did a really great job, because I said you increased your general fund by about 20%. All the water and sewer funds increased about double digit. So overall, you're in really good financial position for the town. I'm going to skip a little bit and go to the actual audit report. And I'm just going to go over just a couple things, because I know you guys are very busy. If you go to page 5, and there's a table there, and if you go to page 5, you'll look at that first table. If you go to the far right of those columns, it's going to give you a comparison of 21 to 22. And probably the biggest difference in the asset side is your assets increased, your current assets increased about 1.2 million. Mainly that was in cash and accounts receivable. If you look at capital assets, that did increase by about 800,000, which tells me you're reinvesting back into the town. And then if you look down probably the middle of that table, you're going to notice that your total liabilities actually went down compared to 2021, mainly because you were paying off some of those loans that you had. Everything else pretty well mirrored 2021. The only other difference, and I think that was in there, was our current liabilities. We did pick up that amount that we owe back on that sales tax, and we picked that up, and I think that was about 100-some thousand. If you go to page 6, it's actually going to give you a comparison of your revenue and expenses. And you're going to notice in 2022, revenues went up for all the funds from about 4.9 million to 6 million. Mainly, again, that was in sales tax and other taxes and building permits. If you look at expenditures, they did too go up about 3.5 to about 4. Some of that cost that went up was additional depreciation cost for the assets we've been buying over the years. So probably the biggest item that you need to know on that table is, if you go to the third line from the bottom where it says increase in net position, in 2021, you increased net position by about 1.4 million. This year, in 2022, you increased net position by 2 million. That's telling me that everything is positive as we're going forward with the finances of the town. If you go to page 9, it'll actually give you kind of a summary of your capital assets. And again, I said that we invested in the town. If you look at the governmental activities, which is like your general fund, it's probably parks and everything else. If you look at that, we actually increased capital assets about 800 and some thousand after depreciation costs, which is a great thing, because that just tells me that the board is reinvesting back into the town as far as capital assets. You would never want that to be kind of a negative. Sometimes it would be, but you don't want to have a trend where that's going to a negative position. And then if you go to page 10, this lists all the debt that the town has, and that debt's been going down. In fact, in 2022, we paid off some of the debt for about just less than 140,000. If you look on the far right of those columns, that will tell you how much debt is due in year 2023. And then I'm going to skip a little bit. And if you go to page 28, probably about a middle way down that thing, you're going to see where all the money is invested. And if you see, most of it is either vested in C-Safe, which is a governmental asset pool, or Color Trust, which is another government asset pool. They're like money market accounts, and they're fully insured. And so you had about 6.5 million at the end of 2022, of which about 5 million of that was invested with those investment pools. And then you had cash in bank with other savings accounts and stuff like that, about 1.6. The good thing is interest rates did go up. They're starting to, in fact, they're still up right now, and you took in a lot more interest income than you had budgeted for.
Pete,
And then,
can I interrupt for a second?
sure.
It's John Clark. I just, total tangent, but, how do we find out, can we go to like C-Safe and Color Trust websites and see what they actually invest in? What kinds of industries and, entities they're compared to a mutual fund? So what are they investing in?
Okay, the way those work, John, is they have to follow the Colorado guidelines as far as the state statutes. And therefore, there are certain things they can invest in. If you go down to mainly what they're invested in, if you go down to probably on page 28, and you go to maybe that fourth paragraph from the bottom, mainly what they're invested in is U.S. Treasury bills and governmental agents securities. They are limited in what they can invest in because of the Colorado state statutes.
Okay.
I think, and you can, Pam would know more than I would, but I think last year they were up to about, I want to say they were up to about 2.5 or 3% that you were making on those investments.
Okay.
And the 21, I think they were really low. They were down maybe 0.25%. So they went from 0.25% to about almost 3%.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, and if you go to page 29, it'll give you a detailed list of all the debt that is owed by the town. And then if you go from 29 through 30 and 31, it gives you a list of when that debt is due. The town does not really have a lot of debt, so that's a good thing. Probably the biggest debt they have is on that general obligation note. So briefly again, overall, the town is in great financial shape. I think the accounting department does a really good job. And you're staying within your budget, and that's why you're probably increasing your net position every year, and this year increased by about 2 million.
Right.
So you guys are doing a good job.
Well, thanks to Pam.
Yeah, thanks.
And thanks for that report, Pete. Anybody on council have any questions for Pete? Anybody in the audience have any questions? Either in the room or on Zoom? It's always nice to see our audit come in so positive, so nice work, Pam. All right, thanks, Pete, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
All right, so that takes us to the item number 8, presentation of annual report from the Ridgway Community Garden and funding request for 2024. Agnieszka?
Hello, evening.
Welcome.
I am not alone tonight. Our vice chair of the board and master gardener and the creator of the community garden years ago is here tonight with
Chris
me.
Lance, yeah.
Lance. I have some slides for you from the last year.
Great.
Okay, so I just put my mission up there because I think we sometimes overlook it. And I'll read it because I can't recite it from memory, but basically it's to provide infrastructure and resources to community members of all ages. That's important for growing produce in a setting that really inspires camaraderie, learning, and sharing with the community. So that's what we had been working on this last year and the years prior at the new location at Green Street Park. So last year we served 90 adults and 35 children, which was a 30% increase from the prior year. And I can't say that that's attributed to 4 additional new beds because some of those gardeners moved to an additional bed. But we did build 4 new tall beds, and I'll talk about that later. And we rented 52 of the 54 for private production. So that's people tending to their gardeners or in partnership with families or friends to nurture that. And then we had 2 collective garden beds for everybody to share. And one of them is our rhubarb bed, which was finally producing and ready for harvest. And then the second one was plants and especially flowers and some edible plants. So those were 2 communal ones. We attempted to plant pumpkins because we were so inspired by the production of last year where we actually grew jack-o'-lanterns, but it was a different year this year. It was really tough. So our pumpkins struggled and struggled for weeks and then we finally gave up on them. But we're looking at more of those collective projects, and I'll talk about that through a stewardship program we're building, where gardeners can all participate in a collective effort. So if you go to the next slide, it was a really hard year, and I think everybody would have appreciated one of those tags in a garden bed. I forgot to, somebody actually put these in their garden bed, and I just forgot to take photos, but you get the idea. It was a really short growing season. Our last freeze was on July 9th. Then we had a hard freeze in mid-September, and then everything was basically killed at the very beginning of October. So not a whole lot of time to grow a whole lot in a very challenging location in town, but gardeners didn't really give up. And if you look at the next slide, we still had a lot of production. This is Laura and Val Schwartz. They are very eager to start gardening back in or as early as March. So they really do a lot of work to get things going. But if you look at some of the beds that are surrounding them, by midsummer, production had pretty much caught up to what they started in March. The next few slides just show some of the harvest. Here's Fred Boyle with cauliflower. That takes some effort. That's my daughter Julia with some beets. We had a big harvest of beets. Yeah, we continue to build out amenities at the garden. So our pilot this year were 4 tall waist-high beds. Preston, if you could scroll up to that to show that photo. No,
The other way.
Down
There.
to show that photo. So that's Carmela standing at a waist-high bed. We built 4 of those for members that we knew were struggling physically to garden at the really short 1-foot tall beds. And everybody that got to work in those was really satisfied and happy to grow. It's so much easier for them. The beds are close to the shed and the watering faucets. So going forward, we will be thinking about building more of those tall beds or maybe something in between. So not a foot, not 3-4 feet, but something in between, because there's might be also a sweet spot. These are not cost effective to build, I'll tell you that. Some other improvements, we finished up our kids area, so we put in a teepee that was donated from Voyager. There's some preschoolers playing with tetherball. We also built the sensory path for them out of logs. We purchased a heavy duty outdoor chalkboard that's going to be installed probably early in 2024. And then one more improvement that was significant, it was done actually with town's assistance. In your approval last year, we had Jeff Rivera come out and he regraded the parking area and brought more fill, which really actually increased some of the parking space, but also like cleaned it up because we had some weed encroachment into that. We also made, that's the next slide, progress in terms of organizational development. I mentioned briefly the stewardship program. We noticed that there were a lot of families coming to the garden just to play in the kids area, and specifically grandparents that weren't necessarily interested in renting a garden bed and putting that much time and energy into growing, but they wanted to experience the garden and bring their grandchildren and friends to the garden. So the stewardship program is a way to link in other community members that maybe don't want or have the resources or ability to garden, but want to be part of what the garden offers in terms of educational workshops, the social events we do, and just being in that space. So we had one member so far, and she attempted to grow the pumpkins that failed, but it was a really cool way for her to feel like she was part of that community and wasn't just poaching the kids area in the neighborhood. We also developed some special use guidelines. We've had a few requests from non-members, other organizations to use the space, and we just felt like we needed some template. So we followed the town's use policies that you have for parks and events. So online, and we continued our sublease with the APRE that subleases a portion of the property we have leased from the town, just adjacent to the garden. And so we also continued our partnerships. The food pantry partnership has been ongoing for years, but it was really impactful the last 2 years thanks to this family, the Mays family, who have actually taken on a garden bed specifically for production and donations to the food pantry. So I think the numbers that we have in terms of served come from the food pantry, but they serve about 170 adults and I don't know what the number, 45 children, more or less. So in addition to production from that the family did last year, we also had donations from other gardeners that we would bring into the pantry on Thursdays. We also served 2 families from the Women, Infant, and Children's program. And I think last year that was 3 adults and 3 children. And they are mentored by the WIC coordinator working within the garden. Another partnership has been with Voyager. So we had several field trips to the garden this summer through the Voyager summer program. These are preschoolers that came out and sampled various different edible plants and herbs in the garden. And there's one more partnership. We've worked throughout the years in various capacities with Ridgway Secondary School. This is the outdoor education class that came out in the spring and helped us fill those tall garden beds. There was a specific process we followed, but it was really helpful to have their help because we got the whole thing 90% done like within an hour of 12 students helping. So really appreciated that. Let's see what else is there. So another component of, in addition to production and those partnerships, community service, we do promote education and growing in a high elevation, short growing season environment. So that is majority a result of Chris's efforts. She's just an amazing educator and is so enthusiastic that you can't help but just want to run home and get your hands in the dirt. So I think she did like maybe 4 classes. The first one was in partnership with the Ridgway Public Library and their seed program. So it was a Seed Up Saturday, which welcomed community members to learn about the best way to start seeds and how to move forward in the early season. She also did a workshop on transplanting starts and then had 2 bedside chats throughout the growing season. And that's basically just open house for the community to come in and the gardeners. And she would walk around the garden and point out do's and don'ts and kind of provide real-time tips to gardeners. So that's something that happens every year. And I think the last big thing we work at is really building that camaraderie and community within the garden and beyond. And we really want to see the garden as a place to be, and it's really starting to feel that way, especially in that growing neighborhood. So we had 3 socials, they were potlucks, but we kind of tried to envision themes and how to engage more members to attend, and sometimes things just happen spontaneously. So that cool shot with the sunset down below is one of our garden members that decided to do like a sound bath last minute. So members are getting inspired to bring in their energy and ideas into the garden, and we definitely welcome that.
Great.
I think the last one, the most important one, is like I said, we had town's assistance last year with the really the heavy duty work we can't really do well with hand labor. So for this year, we would like to request town's assistance to help us improve the storage area around the shed. So scraping that hashed area and matching it to the gravel area that the shed is sitting on, just to help us clean up and organize our big items that are utilized by members. So really an in-kind request. That's all.
That's
Do you have
great.
any questions?
Thank you. That's great presentation. Anybody have questions up here on council?
It's my favorite presentation of this time of year. I love seeing it.
Anybody in the audience? Questions, comments? Either here or on Zoom? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Love what you're doing for the community. Thank you. Alrighty then, that takes us to item number 9, presentation from the Home Trust Bureau County and funding request for 2024. Andrea, welcome.
Hi, nice to see everyone. I don't have a slideshow, but I can certainly do that for next year with lots of fun pictures. We should have more fun pictures by next year. So thank you all. I just wanted to say first for your support last year. It was very helpful in helping us accomplish some things. I listed in the request some of the high points of what we accomplished in the past year, including the acquisition of a 6-unit rental property in Ridgway, helping to preserve existing affordable housing and keeping local workforce from being displaced. We're currently looking into partnering with Habitat for the renovations on that, and Habitat is looking into some funding for that. And then on October 18th, we had our groundbreaking ceremony for our homeownership project in Parkside subdivision. Really exciting. The excavators are out there today digging a hole, so that's really fun. We have begun the design of our Riverwalk Rentals project at 1505 Oak Street in Ridgway. We have some pretty good schematics. We're tweaking them right now so that we can submit them to the city for a PUD application. And then at that time, or after that, we will be asking the city for support for that project, hoping to match the county support that we received. It was $100,000 from the county. We also have received 100 hours of technical assistance from Colorado Housing and Finance Authority for financial modeling, design graphics, and community outreach for our Ridgway childcare and rentals project, which is really exciting. They do a really nice job on a report that we can kind of present and showcase like what this will potentially look like, financial modeling, things like that. We do have one of our community outreach meetings tomorrow, actually here in this room. So if there are any groups or organizations or businesses that you think should be present for that, we're trying to understand what needs to go in that commercial ground floor space. Aside from the infant toddler childcare facility and an office for the home trust, we would like to figure out, what else the community needs, what else the community wants. So we'll have one meeting tomorrow. We will have a meeting in Montrose next week on Wednesday. And then last week, I got together with a bunch of folks regarding specifically the childcare piece. So trying to figure out how to put together the operating. We're finding that it will be fairly, I wouldn't say fairly easy, nothing's necessarily easy, but less hard to come up with the funding for the construction of the childcare. Buell Foundation is a big supporter of that type of thing. It's the operations that we are going to really have to get creative on funding. And so we're super excited that the town lodging tax passed. And so just gonna keep talking to stakeholders and see if we can generate basically a multi approach to funding the operations through different local stakeholders. And then lastly, our pipeline of potential community assets very well may be growing with another possible acquisition preservation in Ridgway. And so we're in conversation with the seller and TBD. So in total, we are looking at 37 affordable housing units with the potential acquisition that I was talking about in Ridgway, another possible 6 units. Currently, our current fiscal year budget is $309,639, and we are looking at in 2024, we're budgeting around $393,000. We will be continuing with our full-time executive director of community outreach, and then our contracted attorney, grant writer, and bookkeeper. We would like to look into adding a part-time director of administration and compliance, although to some degree our grant writer helps us with the compliance for things like grants. But we will also be looking at adding some project management assistance, because currently I'm doing that. And with particularly the Ridgway childcare and rentals project, that's going to be a pretty heavy load. So we would be looking at trying to get some help with the project management aspect of it. We had another great fundraising year. We generated over 28,000 in our 2 fundraisers, and we've had over 25,000 in donations. 37% of our operating funding does come from philanthropic foundations. But our ultimate goal is to be predominantly self-funded. And so with each project, we're looking at, a piece of that operating funding coming from each project. We've built in every project, we've built in a developer fee, an admin fee, an operating reserve, a line item for property management and for maintenance and repairs. So each project will get us a little bit closer to our goal. We have applied for additional grants for 2024, crossing our fingers that particularly the DOLA nonprofit infrastructure grant comes in. That would be a $95,000 grant. And we have received, lastly, we've received $30,000 from the county and $30,000 from the city of Uray for this year's operating needs. So,
In other words, they budgeted that, you haven't received it,
yes.
just technicality. Great.
So thank you all for your support, your consideration. Happy to take questions if you're curious about any of those things a little bit more.
Yeah, you were talking about operational costs for the childcare facility. Is that startup costs? Are we thinking about subsidizing the childcare in some way? What is,
It would be,
not fully self-sustaining on that end, or?
yes. So it would be a long-term subsidy.
Okay.
The problem apparently, so I'm no expert on childcare, but according to the group that I convened, which included Chrissy from Maslow Academy in Montrose, Clea with Bright Futures, they and Lori Sharp, who's a grant writer for Maslow Academy and a number of these childcare groups. The problem with infant toddler is that it's more expensive to run. You need more providers per child, and so it ends up costing more, and oftentimes you can offset that. And what is, I think, typically done is you will have preschool as well as infant toddler to help offset the cost of the infant toddler. Right now, the preschool is really being taken care of by the Ridgway School District and Voyager. And as far as we understand, there is not necessarily a big demand for preschool. It's more, the demand is the infant toddler. And so for those reasons, we're really trying to just focus on the infant toddler. So that means that since we can't include the preschool, we have to either get subsidized or get creative. So we're talking with Lindsay Dickinson. She works for Bright Futures, but she is also a consultant. She consulted for the Haven House in Montrose. And she suggested getting a little creative with the other complementary, maybe style businesses to infant toddler. And if they are both kind of contributing to the same business or space, then maybe that can help offset. I have a meeting on Monday with a woman who does occupational therapy for children. And she is very interested. She's got 2 businesses or offices in Delta and Gunnison, and she's interested in expanding to Ridgway. And so that could potentially, if we kind of house them, I think they have to have separate doors legally, or, but I think that could be a way of maybe doing a multi kind of business.
Yeah. And you answered my question with the fact that it's infant toddler without the higher ratio older kids. That really does address that question. That's all.
Yeah. We've also talked about if we could do maybe a higher end style of childcare, that maybe that could help offset some of the costs for subsidizing some other kids who maybe couldn't afford those price points. So we're still in a real brainstorming stage. If you guys have any ideas, or if you know of anyone who has ideas, please feel free to reach out, because we'll get there. We just need to, Clea is going to deliver a operating budget on Thursday for a 15-kid infant toddler childcare facility. So we'll at least know the cost of it, and then we can kind of start going from there. But I think what we may be looking for is just an ongoing subsidy from local governments, school district, anybody else that could possibly be providing those kinds of ongoing operating support. So.
Great. Anybody else have questions for Andrea? Anybody in the audience? Anybody in the room or on Zoom? All right, thanks, Andrea. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Appreciate all the amazing stuff you're doing.
Thanks, yeah.
Very cool.
Right.
All righty, that brings us to item number 10, request to close Clinton Street from North Flora to North Laura for Noel night on December 1st and request for use of town streets for a parade. Ashley, welcome.
Except there's 3 requests.
And there's a third request for fire pits on this one.
The parade, the closure of Clinton Street and the fire Street.
Gotcha.
So yeah, Catherine and I are here on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, and we are proud to share that we just spearheaded our first Noel Night subcommittee that was held last Wednesday, and some of you were present, so thank you for being there and supporting us in that. So we submitted the application a week prior to that meeting, so there were things that were missing in the application that we heard from the community that really wanted to be present, particularly on Clinton Street, but we can get to that in just a second. Another thing, so there is actually probably 4 things on the docket, Pam. One of the things discussed at the subcommittee meeting was changing the date, the Noel night event from a 1-day to a 2-day. Possibly looking at Thursday, November the 30th, so that we can do our parade this year.
So it's not too much happening on one night, spreads it out a bit more.
So like do the parade on Thursday and the
Just parade on Thursday and possibly do a social evening out for restaurants and things, kind of call it a date night, if you will. So that people can go out and enjoy and socialize in that capacity and then go to Noel night and support local businesses on Friday.
Okay. And then which night would the fire pits, that would be
The
Friday?
fire pits would be closing Laura to Lena on Clinton Street, primarily on Clinton Street, but also
But on Friday.
throughout, on Friday, yes, yeah, throughout.
Yeah.
All the way to, just Laura to court.
Just
the one.
2 blocks on Clinton.
Lena to Laura.
Lena
Lena,
to Laura,
Lena to-
yeah,
So from the post
Gotcha.
office in front of the old bank building.
Yeah.
Which is basically.
Okay.
yeah. We already have 10 vendors interested in the mistletoe market that we're launching. Kind of like an outdoor holiday market, just to, with COVID spiking up during holidays, we kind of want to have a balance of both indoor and outdoor interactions. And it gives people that not physical business on Noel night an opportunity to make some money.
Great.
They're really interested, and that's kind of why we're hoping the fire pit situation could be discussed, because the subcommittee supports the idea, I believe, and we have support from Tom and the Ridgway Fire Department as well. Yeah, I've never really applied for this, so.
Let's take these one at a time. So the Thursday event would be the parade.
Yes,
And I was a little confused about the parade, route
Right.
as you wrote it up here. They used to start at town hall, go from town hall out to the highway and then highway up to, in fact, it changed it over a couple of years. Went from up the highway to Lena, down Lena and around the block past the Colorado Boy and back down the highway. One year we went the other way. We went up all the way to Cora, down to the Colorado Boy corner, down to Lena and the post office, and then back to the highway and around. So what are you guys proposing?
well, because now it's gonna be a 2-day event and we don't need Clinton blocked for the winter parade. We can do that route that you guys recommend. We were just trying to think about,
We're open. I mean, whatever route your committees talked about, I'm just curious what I was just giving you the background on the way we used to do it
right?
before COVID.
I'm open to doing that. The only reason why we did this new route was because we were going to do everything in one night. In hindsight, that's a lot. So now that if we're gonna do the winter parade on Thursday, we don't have to worry about Clinton being blocked off. So we can go with the original route that Pam has been doing. She recommended what you just said. So we can do that one as well.
I
Okay.
prefer to do that one.
Okay,
probably,
yeah, let's do
Since
that.
that's traditionally how it's been done.
What came out of this was with Ridgway having a full Saturday and us working on a weekday night, that we needed to maybe look at doing something in addition that would help pull restaurants in, since they don't seem to get as much New Orleans night business. Maybe everyone who's ever been to New Orleans night feels like you're kind of rushed.
Yeah.
Right, trying
Yeah.
to catch everything.
Santa gonna be there?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, horses say yes.
Somebody's pulling in Santa Claus.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I try to get SMPA involved. In order to keep your rates down, we're resource limited these days. But I'd be happy to pull it if you don't have or I have a red truck.
Okay, sounds great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
You have a
Yeah,
question?
anyone?
Yeah,
else?
the parade, 3 to 5?
We were kind of looking at 4, I believe, when we were discussing with the subcommittee a little early, 4 to 5.
I think we were talking about lining up between 4 and 5 and then we get the parade around 5.
Yeah,
I think was
that's
the
right.
discussion. I think that's what I always remember, like showing up here as it was getting
The
dark.
trick,
Yeah.
yeah, the trick is that when it gets dark, like I noticed walking down here at 5 tonight, it was still light. I don't know that it has to happen.
We're a month and a half, we're a month and a
Yeah,
half.
it's gonna be dark.
Yeah, well,
So I think 5 is a good
Should
start.
be fun.
Yeah, the other thing that I just remember from previous parades is that we completed the parade route and then parents are showing up with kids that they just got from school.
Oh,
Yeah.
And so that was one of the concerns we saw with that was that they, picking up the kids on a weeknight, bring them home, feed them, then try and take them to the parade and the parade's great.
Just to
Yeah.
So-
streamline this, we can issue this permit for some period during that night. Like, subject to confirming that time with Shane, right? We don't have to weigh in on that time versus letting Ashley and you guys make some final calls on that time.
Yeah, it sounds like some thought needs to be given.
We have a follow-up subcommittee meeting at the end of the month that we're gonna send out there, so.
All right, so what, Shane, you wanna weigh in?
We do have an issue, being Sherman Street is a state highway. We're required to have a permit and they require a minimum of 6 weeks.
Oh.
To get the application and the approval. So we're already under that time.
If we line up in front of the post
We
office.
can probably do a short closure, but the other problem that comes in 5 o'clock is high traffic, Telluride traffic coming back. So if we can do a little bit later or an alternate route for the parade would be ideal, because a short closure I can probably work in, but an extended closure of Sherman Street would cause a lot of issues.
What if instead of lining up at town hall, we line up at the post office? And then and then we can go either,
I would say, let's avoid the highway altogether.
that's what I'm saying, if we line up at the post office, you do avoid the highway altogether. And we could go up and turn around in the intersection of Laura and Charles or Laura and Clinton and come back down Laura and Clinton. Like, it make the parade last a little bit longer with people. There's no reason that in that intersection, if we
How,
didn't.
how hard is it to get everybody to do a big circle in that intersection? I guess,
The parade's not that big, but
well, I mean, like you're driving a big ass pickup truck, is it be able to turn around in that intersection?
or we could,
Okay,
or you could send vehicles to do a block, and if pedestrians just wanna do it, turn around and get back.
I'm open. I think it makes sense to try and avoid.
Yeah, it's fun, it's more fun if you're walking and there's people out.
Yeah. What do you guys think about having it just be 2 blocks up and 2 blocks back?
I'm open to it, yeah.
Yeah.
Ariel?
I'm sorry, Tara's trying to say something about a town-sponsored event happening. on
Oh,
Thursday.
sorry, Tara. Didn't see your hand up. Go ahead. If you can unmute yourself.
It's the dark
There
sky
we go.
event.
Which means people will be out and about for free. There you go.
Tara, do you want to weigh in or? We can hear you, I think.
Can you hear me? Okay,
Yeah.
Can you hear? Okay, I just wanted to point out, it doesn't necessarily have to get in the way of these plans, but it might be worth considering that the town is co-sponsoring a dark sky event on Thursday, November 30th at the Decker Room. There'll be a art reception as well as a screening of Defending the Dark. That's a partnership with ROCC. So just something to consider in terms of planning.
What's the schedule on that?
I'm en route right now, so I need to refer to my notes, but I think that it starts in the evening. It's around 5 or 6 it starts, and then there's a reception and kind of a social hour, and then there's the program will begin after that. I can't remember if it starts at 6 or 7. It's on the Ridgway Foods website.
My thought is that if it could, if it sort of doors at 6, social hour till 7, movie at 7, that probably wouldn't
It would
impact.
actually complement. it,
Yeah, I think
probably.
it'd be a
Good traffic.
compliment.
Date night,
Yeah,
go out,
exactly. Yeah.
see a show.
Okay, well, we'll coordinate that. Thanks for bringing that up, Jared.
Sure.
So
could we should we handle this piece by piece in terms of the approval, Pam? They're all in one.
we could,
How do you
It's
want-
fine. I'm gonna redo the application. There'll be one application. So.
Well,
I wanna do it.
Okay.
I think we could
Keep
do
track
it.
of the pieces.
Yeah, I think we
Okay.
could do one motion that just addressed all the pieces. I like what you're proposing. I like short up and back parade on Thursday, then Friday, the street closure and some stuff going on in the street. Is there any impact from public works or police as far as having fire pits in the street? Can you think of an issue with that, Preston?
No.
Are you fire pits in a metal thing rather than just
Yeah,
wood on the ground?
no, in a metal thing,
Okay,
probably a shorter metal thing, maybe having people man it, fire extinguishers around,
Some volunteers.
well aware, fire
Yeah.
department's well aware, so
So.
they're pretty
Fire
close,
department's
so.
cool. All right, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions from the audience? Assume you guys are here to support it.
Definitely support it. Love it.
Two years support.
Socializing and maybe focusing on restaurants and things.
Yeah.
Maybe business owners get to welcome.
Yeah, awesome.
See parades, I don't know.
Yeah. I see Joanne has I bet Joanne's got a comment on the fire pits. Go ahead, Joanne.
Yeah, I didn't hear whether they were going to have something between the fire and the asphalt.
Don't want to melt the asphalt?
Don't want to pull the oils out of the asphalt. Makes it brittle.
Okay.
Joanne, the discussion was those, the commercially available fire pits that are usually on legs off the ground that were propane, depending on what could be
Right.
borrowed.
Okay, sorry I missed that. I just got out of another council meeting.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Do you think that'd work? Joanne?
That'll be fine.
Okay, great. All right. Other comments, questions? Thumbs up here?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up? Okay,
So
so
only questions, do I need to recuse myself?
you can't give it away. I don't think so. Okay, I would entertain a motion to authorize town staff to negotiate the details of this with the chamber and the business community for a Thursday parade. Timing and route to be confirmed, and then a Friday night closure of Clinton Street from Cora to Lena and a great
Laura to
Lena, sorry. And a great community event.
Yes, I think so.
Second.
Moved by Terry, seconded by Beth. Any other discussion?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
Awesome, thank
Thank
you.
you.
You're welcome.
Nice work, gals.
All right, that brings us to item number 11, presentation of proposal for the deployment of electric vehicle chargers in partnership with Helios Charging Incorporated. Is Daniel on? Yeah, I see Daniel.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect, let me share my screen real quick. All right, perfect. Well, sorry I can't be there in person, but thank you so much for allowing me to be on the agenda this evening. Really excited about putting forward a proposal to see if we can get some fast chargers in Ridgway. And so just a little bit of a background. In 2021, as part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, federal government passed $5 billion in federal funding, really allocated to deploy electric vehicle infrastructure. Following that, in August of last year, Colorado and the U.S. Department of Transportation designated alternate fuel corridors, which were eligible for this funding. And so the map's a little bit small on the slide, but as you can see, 550 was alternate fuel corridors. And then also in August, Colorado created its NEVI program, which is the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, which is really a way and established the Colorado Energy Office as a way of disseminating these funds. And so our goal is to submit a proposal to the Colorado Energy Office that would provide the funding to pay for a bulk of the costs associated with installing a DC fast charger plaza, which is 4 chargers in Ridgway. And so our ask for this evening is really a letter of support so we can proceed with our application. We would submit that in December, and then if it gets accepted, we would then work to really iron out the terms, work with San Miguel Power Authority to association to upgrade and install and commission chargers. So right now, there is a pretty big gap. So in Montrose, there's a few chargers, but they're not NEVI compliant. NEVI is the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program. What it means to be compliant is that you have at least 4 chargers, that during the day there's restrooms, during night there are lights, again, so that people that are traveling on the roadway have someplace safe to charge while they're this is really in analog to a gas station that we're also used to. But as there's more and more electrification, the goal is to be able to make sure that people can travel to the San Juans and visit Ridgway, and that there are the places to charge their vehicles. So our mission is really to build out Colorado's EV infrastructure. We're based in Denver, but we're really exclusively Colorado, really focused on trying to make it so that people can drive their electric vehicles and recreate across the state, and that it really is an EV-friendly place, and really focus on sustainability. And so our goal here is really to partner together with the town to make it easy for not only residents, but people traveling through to have access to these fast chargers. As you know, there's already 2 chargers just in the parking lot, and they're often taken, but they're also very slow. It could take all day to charge a vehicle. And where we're looking at putting them, the new chargers would be kind of across the parking lot. There's already a transformer there. And so it would still require probably some electric upgrades, because we would be bringing in quite a bit of new power, but the infrastructure should be close by. And this is a great central location. People, while they're charging, can go grab a bite to eat or grab a cup of coffee. Kids can play in the park. And so I think it's a really great location to help drive more traffic to the community. And then as a company, we are a B corporation, and we actually give back 10% to the community. And so 10% will go back to the town or a local nonprofit or organization. And that's really something that we can work on. So this is what the chargers look like. They have 2 they have 2 ports on each charger, but they look something like this. I know that there's been some question about the charging rate. In particular, I know that there's been some feedback about the chargers in Ridgway. Right now, that's kind of what's circled is they're 58 cents per kilowatt, which is second highest in the area. Wolf Creek is at 60 cents. And the median rate is 45 cents. So our target, again, this is really to be a community resource as well, making it easy for people who may live in the community that have an electric vehicle or want an electric vehicle, but maybe they don't have the ability to have a charger installed at their house. This is something that they could use. So our target is 35 cents per kilowatt hour for power, and really happy to establish a collaborative rate setting strategy so that because we do want this to be something that people can use and do use often. So we're still working with the San Miguel Power Association to really establish what the power rates are. But our goal is to still be well under the median charging rate in that area. We're partnering with a number of other communities in kind of various stages, everywhere from Leadville to Buena Vista, Golden, and so it's exciting. Previously, we've partnered more with on the business side, but there's so much opportunity to help drive economic development in towns across our amazing state. And so our goal, like it says, really is to make it so that people can travel with their electric vehicles and they don't have to have that range anxiety. So I touched on this a little bit, but this is the process. So right now we're in the application phase. We and so our ask for this evening is really just a letter saying that you support the concept, and if it gets awarded, then we can work out on the contract with the use of the space and how we can share revenue, but we obviously want this to be a collaborative effort with the town of Ridgway. So after hopefully this would get awarded, then we work with on the design and engineering, work with San Miguel Power, and then our contracting partner Centerline, which will do all the installation. And then there's a period of building out. Transformers are back ordered, supply chain. So it can be 12 months to a year before the transformers are ready to get installed if it requires substantial upgrades. So we still need to work on, and then finally commissioning. So it's not a short process, but on the shorter side, once the grant would be awarded, it would probably take 10 to 12 months. Could take a little bit longer depending on how long it takes to get the transformers and the seasonality. So that is my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions, and really look forward for the opportunity to work together.
Great, thank you. I think we're gonna have a bunch of questions.
That's some data input just to help out with the conversation.
Okay, go ahead.
So Daniel, this is Terry Schuyler. You contacted me at SMPA some time ago, and I forwarded you to Phil, who responded to some of your questions. I want to give you some updated information. I did explore through SMPA what the status of your inquiry was, and to date you have not applied for an actual engineering estimate, so that you haven't really received any hard numbers. But a couple of quick updates. The transformer situation is now 18 months to 2 years out for a transformer of this size, and that's assuming you're looking at 450 kilowatt chargers. Another data point that would be helpful for this discussion is at 150 kilowatts per charger, this system would have to go on what is called our demand rate, which has a demand fee and an energy fee. And a quick envelope calculation would be that if you assume 20 minutes per charge, and you assume that $25 per charge was the amount separate from whatever the actual rate is, which can be adjusted, it would require about 500 charges per month in order to keep that rate down to $25 a month based on our rates, which is the equivalent of about 16 charges per day for every day of the month. So from a volume perspective, to keep this affordable, And again, these are just envelope calculations. I'd be happy to work with you to get you more detailed numbers. But you do have to apply for an engineering estimate, and there's a charge for that. And I think that's why it hasn't happened yet. But my quick calculation is to make this relatively affordable, you would need almost 500 charges per month in order to keep that at $25 per charge. That's just on the rate side of it. You know, that's not assuming any profit or the 10% you talked about. So that's just information for the council, is that you're looking at a volume of roughly 15 to 20 cars per day in order to manage to make the numbers work out. And again, so this is envelope calculation. I'm happy to work with you to get more detailed, but my guess is you're still looking at somewhere between around 15 cars per day that would have to come through that lot to make that affordable.
So that's at that 35 cents.
That's assuming $25 per charge. If they, whatever the rate is, they ended up spending $25, and I use that number because that's roughly what it cost to cost us when I went to Vail to charge the vehicle for the 20 minutes we were there. It was about $25. And that's an average, you know, if you figure that's what it costs to fill up your car, and electric cars cost less to operate. You know, I fill up my truck at $75, but at $25 a charge, it would take 15 to 16 cars a day in order to make that work, just based on the current rates that we have. The cost of the transformer would be a 600 kilowatt transformer. That's going to be pretty pricey. In one of your emails, you asked if that was a 10,000 or 100,000. It's going to be closer to 100,000, just in terms of the cost of the transformer and the upgrade. So that's just some data. I won't call it anecdotal because it's real data, but my calculation of number of cars is based on an envelope calculation, just to qualify that.
Daniel, all right, did you have a comment about Terry's info?
Just thanking him, and he's correct. We will. We're waiting to really see if there was interest from the community, and then going through and paying the fee for the initial design or initial analysis from San Miguel Power. So, but Terry, thanks so much for that background.
Okay, so my question along those lines is, you know, figuring out whether there's community interest. I'd like to know whether any of those other communities that you listed in your slides is far enough along either in the process or you've actually completed the process with, that we can talk to and get some references and some examples of how the process worked.
Sure. So those, none of them are far enough along where the chargers are fully deployed. So they're in some various stages. There are some other places where we have chargers where we've partnered with hotels and like a US bank partnership to put chargers in those parking lots. But I also understand that that's like a different type of situation. I'd be happy to provide some references. And we're still kind of going through a very similar process right now with some of those other communities.
Okay. Another question I had, and then I'll let other council members weigh in. You mentioned that it has to be, it's referred to as a plaza, and it has to be well lit. We're a dark sky community, and I'm very concerned about our dark skies, and I'm concerned what the lighting requirements are and what are you proposing in terms of lighting?
Absolutely. I think that's first of all, I think it's fantastic that Ridgway is a dark sky community. We would work together to provide to source lights that are compliant with dark skies. And my understanding is that there are some, and really the idea is that people feel safe, right? So we're not trying to to provide any more light than we need, but just make sure that that there's sufficient lighting. So if people do pull up at night and need to charge, and they want to go, grab a bite to eat at dinner, that they feel safe.
So just to throw this out there though, the level of light that people in Ridgway are used to having and may feel safe having is not going to match the level of light that, say, someone passing through from Phoenix would expect to have at their charging station. So just, it is all relative.
And also, there's actually two grant programs through the state. So one is like one of these plazas, and where it does require lighting. And again, happy, definitely want to work together, and make sure that that we don't cause unnecessary light pollution. But the other program is called Charge Ahead, and that's to install some slower chargers, and this could also be an option. So for that, we could install, instead of installing 450 kilowatt chargers, you could install maybe two 75-watt chargers, which, and then the requirements of that would be less. There would be no specific lighting requirements, and so and potentially and Terry would have a better idea, but then we'd only require an aggregate of 150 kilowatts as opposed to 600 kilowatts, which would have a substantially smaller transformer and operating costs. So so our goal is, like I said, we want to partner with the community and find the right solution. And if the plaza is maybe not the right one, then there's still other programs out there through the Colorado Energy Office.
The implications of the smaller capacity chargers would mean that the vehicles would spend more time, which is an interesting potential benefit, in that they would have the ability to spend more time in the community and spend money in the community. The really fast chargers that are 15 to 20 minutes don't usually allow folks to do, unless they're located like the one we went to at a gas station or a Wendy's, don't allow you to shop for very long. In fact, if you leave it plugged in past the 20-minute period, you start paying extra for having it plugged in, basically to occupy the space. So that it's discouraging to be there for more than 20 minutes.
Might have to move somewhere.
So the smaller ones, in my mind, would be more commensurate with some of the issues that have been brought in terms of the amount of traffic. It would obviously reduce the number of cars, and the cars would stay longer. So that's just based on that, his comment about the smaller chargers.
Any other questions up here, and then I'll open it up to the public?
Yeah. So if we sign this letter of support, we're in an interesting position as the town board that has to approve things and expect code to be enforced and do what's best for town. Like having access to chargers, fast or slow, like sounds great, but I know we have all these other mitigating concerns. How committed are we to like continuing to support this? Should we give a letter? I guess is my question. At what point would we be like, this really doesn't fit our community, we're out?
Yeah,
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I've met with Daniel and talked with him a couple times now, and the request is simply for your standard letter of support, non-binding, no financial implications associated with that. And so in the scenario you painted, if down the line for a variety of reasons or a singular reason, the town wants to opt out, that's our prerogative.
Okay.
Is that what you were getting?
Yep, that's what I'm getting at.
It's a letter for him to access grant funding to see if the whole thing works.
Okay.
Now, granted, that's a lot of time and energy on Daniel's part or his team's part, but that's the risk they take.
Right, and we're being pretty clear with those concerns right now, I think, so.
Daniel, Terry, have you explored putting this at either of the two gas stations that are right on the highway? Have you reached out to them?
Ridgway and its suites.
Seems to be the pretty well lit, and that's, it's where the traffic is likely to pass through town. I don't know if it has the same town.
That's definitely true. And so so I know that I think that there is potentially an application from them going in, although I don't know. I don't know for sure. But the thought here was really, and again, maybe this comes back to really that the better solution are the slower chargers. Was really being able to draw people into the community where they could go grab a meal and spend some time. And getting back to those idle fees, those are things that we can set collaboratively as well, right? So that if we say that kind of the time would be like an hour before an idle fee started occurring. Those are things that we can set as well, again, to try to encourage economic activity in the community. Getting back to the other question about the letter of support, just like Preston said, this is not binding. Our goal would be that if you choose to partner at this stage, then I would really like to spend some more time talking with members of the community to decide which grants we would choose to apply for. It's not binding, and if the grant is awarded, we can turn it down. But we'd much rather apply for the right grant than and so if we decide that 275 kilowatt chargers is a better fit for the community than the 450 kilowatt chargers, then we'd rather just apply to the one that's the better fit. And so really happy to engage in that discussion and find the right solution. But just as Preston said, this is not binding at all, does not commit the town to moving forward.
All right, let me open it up for any public comment, either in the room or on Zoom. I think I saw a hand back here.
I did.
Come on up, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, no.
It's so everybody can hear.
I'm Patty Schaefer. I'm at 100 Adobe Ridge, and thank you so much for letting me be here. And thank you, Daniel. I learned a lot from that presentation. And I 100% would love to see the slow chargers. I'm an EV driver. I've got 50,000 miles on the car. I've been to a lot of fast chargers. And that emotionally, it is just our gas station. Same human behaviors are going to occur there. And the structures themselves are inherently taller and wider than what we're used to seeing in Ridgway, because we have the destination chargers. And if you go there in the parking lot right now, the only light you're going to see is smaller than my thumbnail, and it's a little green light that just tells me that the power is okay. But if you go to the arrays that we have in Montrose or in Uray, inherently the chargers glow because they have to kind of attract you. So I really don't think that fits in Hartwell Park. I 100% love the idea of the slower chargers, because the ones that we have are wonderful, but they are aging, and it actually just melted my Tesla adapter. So I'm all about a newer one. So I don't know if it's part of the letter of support, and I also an old grant writer. So for me, a letter of support, when I have read proposals and I have to give money, that letter for support is an inherent vetting of the applicant and consent to the application. So I'm wondering, I know that December 15th is the time you have to go on that website and push that button. Is it possible to get a copy of what your application is, or have that discussion beforehand? Like if it's for the slower chargers, that would be great. But maybe that letter of support can be specifically crafted that Ridgway is interested in supporting 2 slow chargers. And that also directs you, saves time, and tells you what grant that you get to go after. I did have one question, and maybe you answered it with the slower chargers. The map that you showed is the NEVI resource map, and we're in purple because as of August 23, they awarded Plaza in Montrose for Electrify America, and then they put a 50-mile buffer around that. So right now we're in purple on that map. So I don't know, Daniel, if you know if that changes for the slow chargers, because I don't think that puts the proposal in a powerful place, because within 24 months, by 2025, they're going to have a charger in Montrose for Electrify America, and then there's this purple shield around it because they just invested the money to put a plaza. They put a 50-mile buffer. So if we're in that buffer, does that apply for the slow charger? I wouldn't think it would, because a fast charger is a different animal. And I don't know if I've given you a chance to answer that question, Daniel. If we're in that purple zone now for the fast chargers, would we be out of the purple zone for the slow chargers?
Great question. So we are in the purple zone. Ridgway's in the purple zone, but just at the edge. I think that. But the slower chargers is really a different program that map does not apply to. So Colorado is really trying to invest in rural communities because there's just a lack of public chargers that are available. So So I think there's a strong case for the faster chargers. I think there's an excellent case for the slower chargers as well. And also your other question, I'd be happy to share our application and love any feedback there as well.
I think I just have two more things to say. I would encourage the slow chargers just because as a EV driver who goes to fast chargers, my fast chargers are road trip chargers. I know this is the whole grant process is so that if you can't afford a home charger, we've got a barn, it's got an RV outlet. Yay, I get to put it in there. But there's fast charging in Montrose, Ouray, and Telluride. So on any road trip or any place I go, I'm covered for Ridgway. So that's where I really like to see the slow chargers. And just to be completely transparent, and I want to give Daniel a chance to respond to this. The Colorado Secretary of State says that Helios charging formed September 11th of 2023. So that's 60 days ago. I totally get it. That pot of money is there for innovation and for startups to come do this. But Daniel, on LinkedIn, you're listed as a CEO of a different company instead of Helios Charging. And there's not a work history associated with your name for EV charging arena. And then the last thing on that I want to say is that the helioscharging.com website has, in quotes, leading experts in the field. Unfortunately, it's a very scant website that has no listing of principals or staff, their work experience, current projects or past partners. So I know in the application, there is a lovely paragraph that you're going to have to write about staffing and experience. Would that be something that you could share with us now, just so that we have that as we ask the council to decide on a letter of support?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a serial entrepreneur. I've founded several companies. And on my LinkedIn, I'm also the founder of a company called True Home. It's a software platform for construction management. But we have partnered with a company called Loop, which is the one who really makes the chargers, and a company called Centerline, which does the service maintenance and installation. And but you're absolutely right. I mean, Helios Charging, we are a new company, but we've been able to get a number of projects off the ground, and it's part of the reason we don't have some commission chargers that are ready to go for references. But yeah, happy to provide as much background as you'd like.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Anyone else?
Hi, good evening, Chris Hawkins, 730 Savannah Drive. I didn't even know I was going to speak about this tonight. But one thing this reminds me of was, I don't know if you remember the Clean Energy Collective. It was a group that was really hot in the solar industry, and they started solar farms all over the place.
Including Paradox.
Yeah, including Paradox. And I appreciate all your expertise on the council. That was great. And they're kind of not around anymore.
They sold us that array for $1.
So in the end, it's kind of, that's the longer term thing, is how long is this company around and committed to maintaining these systems, and how long is the license agreement, and what's the level of experience? I really appreciate your research skills, because I just saw that online that it was an LLC that was just formed 2 months ago. I couldn't get a proposal across if I just did a business 2 months ago. I know that. So I appreciate your diligence and research on that. And just, those are my only comments. So thank you.
All right.
Happy to comment that on real quick.
Go ahead.
So the state requires that the system is operational for a minimum of 5 years, and requires that there's prepaid service agreements and connectivity to ensure that, if anything happens, that company's insolvent or whatever the case is, that all the service and connectivity is prepaid. So these are great questions. Definitely committed to making them up, but I certainly understand your concerns, and happy to speak to this.
You want to comment?
Yeah. Like him, I hadn't planned on talking about this because I don't know an awful lot, except for the fact that
Just give us your name.
someone,
and address.
oh, Joan Chismeyer. Up in Vista Terrace, 445 Park Lane. I had, one gal that came into the museum who decided to go past Georgetown because they charged too much. And we were a slower charge here in town, and she came over and spent her time going and getting some coffee and having a really good time at the museum, and said that was better spent time for her. So I kind of concur with the slower charge idea myself. Yeah, just fine.
Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom? Okay, what are our thoughts?
This raises a lot of great questions about Ridgway's future in EV infrastructure. And I would love to see one of our gas stations jump on a supercharger.
They're going to eventually.
That's what I'm saying, like, but how can we support that? But I agree, that's not the right vibe, right? This isn't a gas station. The bathrooms are unlocked at night, it is dark, it's lovely.
I'm guessing there's consensus for the slow chargers would be what we prefer in that location. Is that correct?
If it were to be that location.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if that's,
I think it's
and I think it's a great
location
location
for that,
for
for
a
the
couple
slower
more chargers. The other ones are, as she said, the other ones are aging. Sorry, it fried your or melted your adapter. And more slow chargers are good. I mean, it's a great way to get people to stay for a few hours and have a meal and walk around town and do some shopping. So I would say that if anything, we'd probably be willing to, based on maybe getting some more background and maybe seeing the proposal, sort of authorizing staff to review that and write a letter of support for 2 slow chargers at that location. So everybody's leaning towards that.
I'd be okay, so I would vote for as well. And to see copies of your proposal, which I know, we have to give you a letter of support to include in the proposal, but just, keep an open book with us on what your ideas are. And of course, we'll vet the final solution based on the grant and knowing that the letter is not committal in this regard.
Yeah.
There's no harm in trying to get the grant money and then we sort out the nasty details of it. That's kind of what I've been operating.
So Preston, do we need a motion for this?
I think I got the direction.
Yeah.
Move forward with the letter of support, provided that we have assurance that we can review the proposal or application, share it with members of town council, Paula, anybody else interested. And I'd like to concentrate on the solar chargers, potentially 2. Is that captured?
Yep. Does that work for you, Daniel?
That works great. And just for timeline, those applications for the slower chargers will be probably early next year. So there is not a huge rush, and I do want everyone to happy to work together on what we're looking for, and also happy to share that application as well.
Right. All
And
right.
Daniel, feel free to contact me again. We'll get more in the weeds with some of those costs.
That sounds great, Terry. Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone's time this evening.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate your time as well. Is that it from that one? Thanks, everybody. That was good discussion. All right, that takes us to our 2 public hearings for the night. The first one is item number 12, application for beer and wine liquor license, applicant Wick Coffee Company LLC, shareholders Daniel and Tara Wick, location 618 Clinton Street, DBA Kismet Cafe. It's the old Lotus Food location. And Pam, take it away.
Okay, great. That's true. We do have an application for a beer and wine liquor license. There wouldn't be any other alcohol served under this license other than that. The existing premises was approved for a license by the council, but that was never issued. They never followed through with that. So the premises has not been licensed. So this is a standalone license. It's not a transfer.
Okay.
And we have gone through the process and all requirements of the license have been met. The applicant is holding a 4-year lease for the premises that they have taken over from the existing leasee.
So they're
And-
subletting it? Essentially,
I don't
something
know,
like
I
that.
just know it's right.
Okay,
And the approval of the license would include the front patio area, which is to the north of the building, and also include the ability to later use the south patio if they worked on opening that area up and creating an area out there for the public. They are also asking for a concurrent review of the state liquor enforcement. So what that allows is that the applicant can come to local jurisdiction and ask for a temporary permit before the state license is received.
Since this is a public hearing, I'll open it up for council to ask staff, since the applicant's not here. I guess Tara might still be on.
She's on one.
Yeah, she's still online. If you have any questions for Tara or for Pam about this. And then once we're done with that, I'll open it up to public comment. Any questions up here?
Questions?
Seems pretty straightforward. All right, I will open it up to public comment. Anybody in the audience, either here or on Zoom, have any comments or questions about this application? All right, hearing none, I will close that public comment and bring it back up here for deliberation. I think it's pretty good. Yeah, okay.
I move to approve the beer and wine liquor license for Wick Coffee Company LLC doing business as Kismet Cafe.
Second. All right, motion made by Beth, seconded by Russ. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This is unanimously, thank you. All right, that takes us to a longer presentation. Item number 13, second reading of it. Actually, yours is next. Second reading of ordinance number 07-2023, amending section 6-2 of the Ridgway Municipal Code concerning floodplain management regulations and adopting updated flood insurance study and flood insurance rate map. Preston.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So this is a public hearing and second reading of this ordinance. First reading or introduction was approved last month. And as a reminder, the flood hazard determinations for our community are now considered final. And the flood insurance study and the flood insurance rate map will become effective on January 11th, 2024, so a couple months time. And before that date, the town is required to adopt the new flood insurance rate map and the flood insurance study, and to adopt floodplain management regulations that meet the standards of the National Flood Insurance Program. What we have in place now does not meet the standards. It's been quite some time since those regs have been updated. So the ordinance before you does just that, meets the current requirements.
Great, and as Preston said, this was introduced last month, so we've had time to review it. But I'll give everybody an opportunity to comment, ask questions of either Preston or Bo, if you have any. Everybody's got this one, please. Understood. And again, because it's a public hearing, I will open it up for public comment. Anybody either in the room or on Zoom have anything to add? All right, hearing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it up here for us to make a motion.
I move to adopt on second reading ordinance number 07-2023, amending section 6-2 of the Ridgway Municipal Code concerning floodplain management regulations and adopting updated flood insurance study and flood insurance rate map.
Second.
All right, motion made by Russ, seconded by Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, so that takes us to policy
We
matters.
have a question.
Yes,
Hi, yeah, sorry, I'm just not seeing the Independent Film Fest on the agenda.
Oh, is that what you're here to? Oh, we don't have that on the agenda.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, I just didn't look at it, I just was told to come early and
Oh, Oh, I'm so sorry.
I
I,
realized that it wasn't early anymore.
it's not early anymore. Did you want to give us a short?
I'd be happy to, since I'm here, yeah.
Just-
I mean, is that a?
Yeah, come up.
Okay.
Yeah, come on up and
Okay, let me,
real quick.
It's a good thing you spoke up.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
will, yeah, well, yeah, I'm glad I
Is
lost.
that why you're here too?
Yeah.
Okay, I wondered.
I lost
It's-
some of my posse.
I thought Bo sent you.
Yes, I did look all official behind those. I don't even know who that is.
We're gonna call you Bo from now.
You can totally call me Bo. Can I share my,
Yes.
yeah, I will be brief though, I promise. Let's see. Will it just do it or?
You have to do it from your device. Are you on the Zoom?
I am, yeah.
So it's share screen at the bottom.
Oh, you have a cool computer.
Do I? Oh, boy. Oh, share content, screen,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's up at the
totally,
top,
totally,
right?
sweet. Looks like it might be working.
That looks like that's gonna work.
Thank you, John, because Kevin's not getting hungry.
Sorry, I'm really sorry that I didn't catch.
That's cool. I hope you guys can rally for this for a second. So I'm just giving you all a quick update about the Ridgway Independent Film Festival. And I am the director of said festival. My name's Ariel Bielak. And I'm not sure exactly how the agenda item was going to be couched, but I'll just give you
Probably just an overview of what's happening this week.
Sure, okay. So the film festival, we're in our 9th year this year. And we're an all-volunteer program of Fuse. And we've grown from a 2-day two evening screening for the past 8 years at the Sherbino to a 4-day community-wide series of events. This year we have 4 screenings, 4 venues, including 2 new venues for screenings, over 25 partners and sponsors, over 1,000, well over 1,000 volunteer hours logged for the film festival, and the amazing support of our community businesses, Fuse, the town of Ridgway, and this year we also have some educational components. So there's a lot going on. We have these programs that I kind of spread around. So I encourage everybody to take a look at them. And then there's also a digital program online, and you can get to it anytime by going to ridgway-fuse.org/RIFF for Ridgway Independent Film Festival. And so I just wanted to also quickly say that in this year, our fundraising has also expanded to match all of these amazing events. Our budget has, good Lord, my son's calling me. Like, where are you? We have, let's see, we've gone from about a $2,000 to a $10,000 budget. We're hitting our 5K cash sponsorship and counting fundraising with a projected to hit a flat budget. We have in kind around $3,000 and counting. And so that's all pretty exciting. We wanted to just point out a couple of the events, highlight just a couple of quick things to kind of showcase what is new and fabulous that's going on this year. So I wanted to, and our program's coloring book, so a little bit. So on Thursday, this Thursday, is the first day of the festival. So it's happening from the 9th through the 12th. And I'm just very proud of our very first screening of the festival. We're partnering with Communities That Care and Tri-County Health Network. We've got
communities that carry Uriah County as well as San Miguel County coming up with staff people and resources for our community. And that's pretty exciting. We have a local director and local resident, Johnny Zog, who is featured in this film Skyline. And this film is incredibly powerful and touches on issues of mental health, and as well as a lot of people's very favorite thing to do, which is climb the mountains out here. And so there's going to be a panel discussion with both Johnny, Kyle, and Rick Trujillo, and that's going to be really exciting. And we're just so glad to be partnering this year with some of our local nonprofits to really highlight the intersections between art and film and community matters that are important to a lot of us. They'll also be taking folks up to Top of the Pines on Sunday morning for a closer look at Johnny's traverse across the Snuffle skyline, which is what the film is all about. And this is another aspect of the festival that I wanted to highlight because we're very excited to be utilizing some of our community resources and highlighting to both residents and non-residents visitors for the festival, highlighting the education that the educational aspects of places like Top of the Pines. There are a lot of really wonderful things about Ridgway that we love to share with folks. So we hope that people can watch a film and then go out and do something tangible and meaningful in our community to go along with it. So that being said, we also have a very exciting panel discussion. Sorry, this thing. On Sunday, featuring the very accomplished James Anaquad Kleinert, who's a local and a documentary filmmaker. Ariel Brackfeld is the Deputy Film Commissioner for the state of Colorado, and she's going to be telling us more about how we can tap into some of the state funds for our youth in Ridgway in some very tangible ways, as well as building pathways to professional development for folks who are interested in getting into the film industry from our community. And then Peter is also a local who's going to be giving us a rundown of his work and his perspective on rural filmmaking from a person who works in Hollywood but lives in Ridgway. And so I'm just super excited to be co-facilitating that with Dylan Howell, another local. So yeah, we are just very excited to share all of this with you guys and hope that you can see how great it is for us to be utilizing the Decker Community Room as a brand new venue and a place where we can have these kind of awesome discussions and cultural events in our community. And I've just been blown away by how eager our businesses and community members have been to get behind this effort this year. And I just so jazzed to share it with you guys in person and see what we can do in the years to come. So
great. Thanks, Ariel,
yeah.
and huge thanks to you again for the amount of work you put in this year. It's really impressive.
Well,
You've been involved since the beginning. This is our 9th year. You've taken it to a place I never imagined we'd go. So it's really cool to see.
Well, thank you, John, and it's been such a pleasure doing it with you, and I hope we continue to do it in the 10th year and years to come. So
Definitely.
awesome. Thank you.
Cool. And sorry again for not realizing that's what.
That's okay. I actually feel guilty that I haven't been to a town council meeting yet, so I have now been to one. I got what I wanted.
All right.
And if anybody wanted a program, you're welcome to take your stickers and programs up there.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again.
Yeah.
And one thing I keep throwing out, that the program lists a lot of start times and the doors open a half hour before the times listed.
Yes, that's a very important note because Not only because it's good to be on time for things so they can start on time, but also there is food, there is catering this year. And so that's a little extra time to enjoy the really beautiful food that will be at the
I
Charbonneau.
saw a picture of that on
Yeah.
Instagram. It looks amazing.
So please come. The tickets are online. And then a lot of the events are free as well.
Yeah,
So,
the main program's Friday, Saturday. Are listed to start at 6, but the doors are actually at 5:30. The films will start at 6. So make note.
thank you, John. Yeah, and pass the word along.
Thank you, guys. Tell your family sorry.
Well, they weren't expecting me back anyways.
For a while.
Yeah, for a while. So.
All right, and thank you for being patient. So that takes us to item number 14, review and action on Town of Ridgway Master Plan Amendment request from Preserve PUD, location Savage subdivision part of Outlaw A and Woodford Edition, address TBD County Road 23, zone residential R, owner Dalwhinnie Group LLC. I don't see a staff person. Is TJ taking this?
TJ's taking this.
TJ, take it away.
All right. Good evening, everyone. And are you seeing the full screen there?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So we have a little bit of a different type of an application in front of you all this evening. So bear with me as I try to explain it, and hopefully I did a better job in the staff report, and then I'll kind of articulate here this evening in respect of time, but feel free to stop me at any point. So there we go. So we have as an amendment to the master plan.
The diagnosis of all of the people. But as of right now, they still don't know. I mean, this is one of the doctors.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Sorry, everyone. Got a little flustered there for a second. All right. So we have a master plan amendment, and it's going to include an amendment to the future land use plan and the 3 Mile plan. What you might recall back in January, we established a process through which such a request would be going through, since the town didn't have one previously. And so we have our guinea pig to go through this. And so I'll kind of remind you of what that process was along the way as well. So here it is. That the master plan was created or adopted in 2019. It does have an amendment process, but it's pretty vague. So we updated, or we staff recommended a more clear and kind of a clearer process to go through. And that process is a submittal of a request, completeness review, public meeting. Actually, as part of the completeness review, there's also a referral period that goes out to utility providers and special districts and to the county departments that are kind of part of the annexation components, if you will. And then there's an open comment period for which it's notified in the newspaper for a period of 21 days. And then we hold a planning commission hearing. That hearing was held last week. We'll get to that in a minute. And since, statutorily and in the town code, the planning commission is the ones that I guess in the charter, actually, the planning commission is the ones that adopt the master plan. We did want to, though, bring it to this, what we're calling a ratification in front of the town council. And so that's basically what you're doing, is either you're giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the planning commission recommendation. This is not a public hearing this evening. The public hearing was held at the planning commission meeting. So just in general, this is part of the southern property that's owned by Dalwhinnie, part of the Preserves PUD project. You can see it highlighted in green or outlined in green. So Dalwhinnie is the owner. Chris Hawkins with Alpine Planning Group is the applicant, and I saw him in the audience to give a presentation or to talk on the application. It is a portion of the legal description of this is a portion of Lot A Abbott exemption, and obviously it's currently in the county and it's zoned valley. I'll also just clarify that we're not looking at an annexation right now. We're not looking at zoning or any of those. We're simply looking at making a couple modifications to the master plan document. All of those, if so proposed, would come at a later date. I'm not going to go into the history of the PUD. I think a lot of you are aware of that. I think the big part is that earlier this year, maybe towards the end of last year, there was a meeting between the town and the county, and it was determined that because of infrastructure locations, it made sense for this portion to be annexed into the town rather than town infrastructure be located in county jurisdiction. And so that's the thing that kind of started this whole ball going down this avenue. And so the first thing that has to happen before any property can be annexed, we need to update the future land use map to reflect what may or may not be annexed into the future. So this is roughly 200 feet south of the current boundary. And there are 4 components that I just want to be clear that we're looking to amend. One is the future land use map that provides the color, the future land use classification, which in this case is residential. Amend the urban growth boundary to include this area as well as the initial growth boundary, and those are consistent with the definitions of those terms and how it's currently laid out. So we're just pushing those 3 lines to the south. Similarly, the 3 mile plan. The 3 mile plan is a statutory requirement that says that it has to be updated annually. And it has to be adopted prior to any annexation. So this is kind of a check the box that what we had planning commission do is formally update or adopt the 3 mile plan to reflect the future land use map. And then that way we've kind of reset the clock on that. So it is kind of one little shift, but it's adjusting a few different components of that future land use map. So just a process overview. We got the application originally submitted the early part of February, and because it was the first time, it took a little bit to deem it complete out in May. It was sent out for referral period, where it was sent to 6 districts and county departments. No comments were received. The public meeting was held on August 10th at the Ridgway Community Center. There was an open comment period that was notified in the newspaper. And we did, as I mentioned, held the hearing in front of the Planning Commission last week where they adopted the amendment unanimously. And here we are to ratify that decision this evening. This criteria is the criteria. I won't go through it all. But the master plan does lay out a couple of criteria to amend it. And so I just wanted to at least highlight that those are in the current master plan, and we feel that they are all being met here with this amendment. So last week, as I mentioned, the Planning Commission did move to approve the amendment to the master plan, the future land use map, and the 3 mile plan as proposed. So that was the discussion and decision. There was, I'll mention that there was some discussion related to annexation more so than the actual master plan. We kept having to kind of redefine the two. And then, well, maybe there's some other areas that need to be annexed, but because this was a request coming from an applicant, a property owner, we didn't want to go too far into, what else could, if you will. So that's the recommendation, or that the decision that was made by the Planning Commission last week. And this evening, the council has two options to either ratify the planning commission approval or to reject the approval. And if you do decide to reject the approval, would love to know why on some of those criteria or standards, what those have not been met. And that is all that I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And if not, the applicant is in the audience to give a presentation or answer any questions as well.
Great, thanks, TJ.
Yep.
Do you guys have anything you want to add?
Very brief. Thank you. Good evening, Chris Hawkins with Alpine Planning. Thanks TJ, Preston, for all your help. Obviously going through a lot of hoops to get to this point. So appreciate the direction from last October, and it's literally taken us a year to get to this point. TJ, if you wouldn't mind sharing your screen again real quick and going to that process slide where it showed the urban growth boundary adjustment. We're primarily here just to address those three conditions of the plat, which was all concerning county approvals. And so appreciate the direction it's gone. I think it's a better solution to annex it into the town. We can do a lot more with this now. We can actually, you know, assuming we get to that point, we can actually convey the land for the lift station to the town or provide an easement or whatever's needed or desired overall. I did just want to point out one thing in this, in the process slide we had. That was it, back where it showed the urban growth boundary. Sorry, right there. Oh, geez, sorry. That was bad. Sorry about that. No, it's like that. So this is the area that we're talking about, really small. There's no density in this area at all. It's just for infrastructure. So it's going to be, for the most part, positive open space. This little sliver right here was discussed last week, and this is part of the athletic part. We actually are proposing to change that as part of this because it's our intent, pending the consent of the council, to include this also into the annexation of the town. So that's not under the jurisdiction of the town anymore, and it falls fully under your jurisdiction to implement the park master plan. So we're willing to do that. My client has said that. There'll be a little bit of logistics we'll have to work through in order to do that, like consent and things like that. We want to get that direction before we go to the extent of preparing an annexation plat and petition, et cetera. But that's something we thought we could help clean up along the way with this, and we're glad to answer any questions you might have. One other question that came from Mayor Clark last week was, do you intend to move forward with development? It's a good question. It's been out there for a while. And I'll let Michael Cox answer that question. He's the manager of the LLC.
Michael Cox, 6154 County Road 23. We're pretty excited to move forward, actually. It's been a real struggle working through the process. And I will say that the process has become much clearer in the past couple of years. And that's been a real relief for us. And making some new processes as well. So for us, our intention is to build out this property. We're looking forward to have a neighborhood there. We've previously contributed for the park and lots of other things around town, and we just love the community. So for us, this is a great step, and so really looking forward to that. And thanks for sticking with us through this incredibly long and still lasting process. So we will see you again as well. Thank you.
Do you want to mention the cleanup that you did to help
Sure.
the subdivision?
Saw John walking down the road the other day and said, doesn't that look better? One of the big things for us was the kind of derelict old marijuana grow across the river, just being a horrible eyesore. And so we purchased that property and spent the last several months cleaning that up. We took out 100 tons of concrete, 10 steel recycling dumpsters, 30-yard, and 50 40-yard dumpsters of trash. So it's also on the market. If anybody would like to purchase that now, let me know.
It looks good. It's good.
So thank you.
I have a quick question. My memory serves me. Didn't we already annex that little sliver?
I don't remember. I remember discussing it. remember, Preston, I don't think so.
That little triangle, yeah, that little tiny. I think we've confirmed that it's not within the town boundary.
It's a weird jog in the current master plan, and
It's a little
so,
glitch that happened somewhere. down the road.
I think it was meant to be addressed time, but.
Yeah,
It was brought up somewhere.
we discussed it. I think what we just discussed is that when this thing all.
Demonstrate that and paying attention.
Okay, so anybody up here have questions or comments? That's a pretty straightforward process. Happy to see this moving forward. Yeah. It's not a public hearing, so we don't need to do.
I'll move to ratify the town of Ridgway Planning Commission decision to approve the amendment to the master plan, future land use map, and the 3 mile plan, include the area requested by Downey Group LLC.
Second that.
That was so close.
I think I won, but I usually think I win.
Yeah. And just for having said that, I'm gonna give it to her. He's closer to me than.
It's fine. It's gonna be okay.
All right, having a good time here. Motion made by Terry, seconded by Russ. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
If you want to see you, enjoy your holidays. I know it's just around the corner, but thank you for all your volunteer time. I know it's not fun all the time, so thank you.
Always good. It's a fun All right, so that takes us to.
Thanks, TJ.
Yeah, thanks, TJ.
Thanks. Happy holidays, everyone.
Take care. That takes us to presentation of the draft 2024 fiscal year budget. Pam.
You have in your packet a copy of the draft budget as it was last week. When it was put into the packet, I made some changes on my budget, which you will see at your workshop next Thursday. You also have in there copies of the 5-year capital improvement plan and the 10-year capital improvement plan. And the little worksheet that I use that shows where expenditures are located within which line items in the budget. The budget, as you're seeing it now, has a few changes to it other than how you saw it before. I changed the colors on here so that they're distinguished between numbers that I just need to insert, which are in a gold highlight, and the bright yellow are numbers or items that will be or have been placed into the capital improvement plan. So there's not that many of those, but we can go through them if you want. I also wanted to note that the capital improvement plan as it is does not include items that the council asked for during the budget retreat. Those will be presented at the workshop and will need to be discussed as we look at balancing the budget to capital projects. I also noted when I went through everything that I didn't mention when we had our retreat, that I added a new line item into page 2 of the budget under community and economic development. And it's entitled electric vehicle charging station, which is probably appropriate for what we're talking about tonight. The cost of our charging stations has been running into the parks budget, and I saw that a few months ago and thought it might be nice to pull that out and track that separately. So that is a new line item that was put into the budget a few months ago. We have just had the passage of the ballot question that was ratified by the county clerk today. And so the adjustments to lodging tax will be shown on the budget when we meet next Thursday, along with adjusting the marketing line item and the affordable housing line item. Sales tax estimates will be included in there. I think I told you during the retreat that I thinking about 1.5. I looked at the numbers as they have come in. Will be our second to the last month before we end the year. So I really wanted to see those numbers, and they are almost $1.5 million. So that's the number you will see come forward from estimate year end into our beginning fund balance to start our conversations on Thursday. And you will be getting the copy of the budget with the changes that I have up to date, along with the capital improvement plans with the added items from your discussions at the retreat in a packet that will probably put out Friday afternoon or Monday morning at the latest.
Okay.
Another item that I wanted to draw to your attention is that we have got this year a significant increase in funding requests. We've got increases in the amount that are being requested, and also we have a number of new organizations. So Preston and I have had this conversation for a while now, and we're
4 years.
going to, yeah. Not gonna put that up on anybody, but we are going to include this year into the strategic plan, a plan that will include a filing or an application process that will be formal for community grants for nonprofits. So submittals that will go into the budget from these organizations they'll have to submit some requirements and go through an application process. So there'll be some kind of criteria that the council can work with next year. So that will be useful in your budget next year. But those items will be coming to you on Thursday, and we'll have those discussions. That's why we wanted to get you the documents early so you could start looking at those letters. Those will be included in that packet. You can look at those requests and have an idea before you get to the meeting. It may be a daunting process for you to read through it, especially after we work with the capital improvement plans that night. I think that's all I had noted that I wanted to draw to your attention. If council has any questions on any of these documents, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Anybody have questions?
No questions. I'm saving up for Thursday.
Yeah, we got our work cut out for us on Thursday, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But it'll be good.
I'll jump in if you don't mind. So remaining timeline here, Pam just went over most of that, but next Thursday is going to be a big one. A lot to discuss, so buckle up. It's all going to be good stuff. At that meeting, we'll also have a draft of the strategic plan for 2024 for you all to review and chew on as we get moving forward into the later stages of the budget process. So we're definitely in the thick of it. This point is a bit unique here. John, do you want to take the lead here in presenting the Water Smart Workshop?
Oh, right, yeah. So I presented this to Planning Commission at our last meeting, and I think some of you are aware that we put together a team. We applied to go to this event in Grand Junction 2 weeks ago this week, presented by the Sonoran Institute with the cooperation of this Babbitt Center for Land and Water Policy. They've been doing these growing water smart workshops for a number of years now. I think they said they've had as many as 40 events with like 100 different entities.
I think that's right. And this workshop had City of Fruta, City of Grand Junction, Steamboat Springs, Glenwood Springs, Cortez, Summit County, Ridgway.
So we're going again.
Yeah. Little Ridgway, impressed them once again. It was really good. Our team was Preston and myself, and TJ and Tanya Ishikawa and Joanne, of course. And the other two in that picture are facilitator and co-facilitator, the guy on the far right, Luke. And what was the gal's name? Melissa? Yeah.
But they were great facilitators.
Luke works for the Sonoran Institute. He's based in Tucson, where their main office is. And then she works for the Colorado Water Conservation Board. So they were great to work with. And these are the steps we went through. There were a number of presentations, of course, and it was just really, I mean, it was at the Grand Junction Convention Center, which I was pretty impressed with. They did a nice job. So the first thing was to set a team attention. They had a spill out, and Preston and Joanne and TJ did the lion's share of the heavy lifting on this to fill out a very detailed report on our ordinances and everything about the town of Ridgway to determine the answer to this how water smart are we now question. And then discuss how water smart do we want to be and what is our water smart message, and then last an action plan. The interesting thing that came out of it in the early stages was that we are actually, as so often the case, we're doing pretty well. We are pretty water smart. We've done a great job planning for water needs. Our GPPD gallons per person per day is relatively low. I think at about 66 on average. But we
remember that.
Yep.
Joanne can verify that, but I think it is low. Very low. Usually about 100.
Yep. But we also right away were able to identify from this in-depth report on everything about the town's water system was that one of the major uses of our water, and I don't remember the percentage on it, but is the raw water, the non-potable water that we use to water our parks. And we could easily save another 10 gallons GPPD if we made some changes to how we irrigate our parks and how we deal with it.
So that's pretty low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
that
became our focus pretty quickly throughout the course. And I'll reiterate what you said. I mean, I went into this thinking we're a pretty water smart community. We're so water conscious. You all know that. And got to a point, well, you got to throw all that out the window because there's a ton of things we can do to even be more water conscious and respectful of the water and be good stewards of the water that we have. And so that's how we kind of came to this conclusion that the water supply assessment that came out, you see that the town as an organization is using quite a bit of water on our parks. Granted, we have a lot of park space per capita. So there's reasons for that. And it's always green and it's well utilized, but there's a lot of ways we can improve in that realm. So
I'm thinking a simple measure too might be like a half a pitcher per table.
You're always thinking. Yeah, it was interesting. And I have to say, because this is just the dead horse I keep beating, is that the issue of our urban forest. And I know that the gals from Horizon Maintenance mentioned it when we were last talking about our water rates. You know, what can we do to encourage more water conservation at the same time and doing it in a way that we don't get people to just stop watering their trees and end up being even more of a desert than we already are. So that was a big part of the discussion. I think, you know, education is a huge part of it. Anyway, you can go to the next slide, I think. They had this model of a storytelling approach where you come up with a couple of statements that are joined by the word and then a but clause, which is, you know, here's what we're doing, but here's where we're lacking, therefore here's what we need to do kind of approach. And we spent probably half a day drafting our Ridgway Water Smart message, and here it is. Ridgway is a vibrant small town that values our healthy natural environment and makes our community, and that makes our community desirable. But we must recognize the realities of a dwindling water supply as a result of a hotter and drier climate. Therefore, the town will reduce its own water use on town property by improving irrigation efficiency and increasing drought tolerant landscaping, And we hope you will join us. If we work together, we can protect what we love about Ridgway into the next century.
So we spent, like you said, quite a bit of time coming up with this message, and it was really interesting, all the other communities.
We all read ours at the end.
We all
of
read
that
ours.
section.
There were so many similarities between, but differences, of course, subtle, but everyone, it was incredible just seeing, half a day's work and everyone kind of coming to the same.
And ours was actually one of the shorter ones. Ours was a little more short.
Yeah, there were some novels for sure. Just some photos from, it was a pretty intensive 2.5 day workshop.
The guy in the, with the long red hair in the back of that left photo is also with Colorado Water Conservation Board. It was great to have people like that there that could say, wow, because one of the things we of course brought up right away was where can we come up with some new efficiencies? I mean, we all know how the water assessment we did a few years ago pointed out that there's some losses that seem higher than they should be in the water program, and piping the ditch has always been high on our list. So between this guy, Kevin, I think was his name, and then the guy that was facilitating the group, they both were like, gosh, they need to talk to so-and-so. So things came out of it that I know we've got some resources, people to go to talk about potential funding.
Ton of resources and opportunities. The image on the right is the board from our action plan. You go a couple slides back. The final stage after establishing the water smart message is to figure out how to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. And so we spent a ton of time putting an action plan in place. All the communities did, and quite overwhelming the whole exercise, because there's a lot to do.
Kevin's looking at Preston. His eyes were.
I think all of us were like, "Whoa, there's a lot to do." But what came out of this was this action plan with specific goals and then outcomes from those goals. I won't read the whole thing, but reduce landscape water usage on municipal turf, etc. And we're bringing all this up now because this was like the first step of our action plan, to present it to everyone on council to create the buy-in, because there's some low-hanging fruit, as you said, and some shorter-term items that we think we need to put into ultimately the 2024 budget. So that's why I said buckle up for Thursday, because we're going to try to we have the action plan in place in the spreadsheet, but we need to do some work to it to make it a little more understandable. So I'd like to present that then and figure out what the budget in 2024 might be able to accommodate.
We're thinking,
given all the other stuff,
we might need to reprioritize some of the things that we put in the 2024 budget that might be better to try and do some of this stuff. And just to address a couple things, that widespread municipal turf replacement, what that means is looking at our parks and finding particularly areas on the fringes where it's not really high use, it's more aesthetic than actual used grass, but it has to be watered. So one thing we tossed out is a great example of a way to do some, again, that low hanging fruit. The thing we could do right away and show people what we're trying to do would be to take like the first 20-25 feet of Hartwell Park north of 62. It's really visible, and replace that with drought tolerant plants and ground cover and mulch, and with pathways going through it every 50 feet or whatever.
Is that the same grass patch that we get some criticism for early on?
No, that's heritage.
Oh, it's exactly there.
Yeah, and that's somebody brought that up to me. It's Mallory, but maybe should revisit that. But this, particularly in Hartwell Park, there, and in the fringes of all our parks, there's places where we can pull out significant square footage of grass, or some of it's just kind of native grass, not even turf, but put in the kind of stuff that doesn't need the kind of irrigation that we're doing with these giant rainbows. So that's just the kind of things we talked about. There's the whole group.
One of the flip sides of remembering that our low water usage is a lot of people don't maintain a really green grass in their own yard and use our parks. So it's trade-offs, right? Of like,
Yep.
I think.
Yes, evaluating what parts of the parks are really used and finding, like, I like to call it the fringe areas that aren't necessarily necessary to be in grass. So that was a good event, definitely between that and it's, and Mountain Towns 2030 event the week before, my head was exploding at the end of this. But good stuff.
But yeah, thanks for indulging us. Wanted to bring that before you all, and there'll be more to come. Let us know if you have any questions on it.
That's fantastic stuff. Nice work on that.
Oh, and Tanya has her hand up. Tanya, please.
Hi there. Sorry I couldn't make it over to the building tonight. Gotta eat dinner sometime. Sorry. So that was really a great event that we went to, the workshop, and I was really impressed with both how it was run and how in particular our team worked together. And yes, I think it's really positive and optimistic that we have really pragmatic goals and opportunities to follow up on. But of course, it will take some work, and we have a small staff. One of the things was Summit County was there, and they have 600 staff members in their county. So, of course, they also have more complex situation than us. Like, we were all very much in agreement on things. If we came up with something we didn't agree with, we talked through it and we came, to the conclusion of, what we all could agree on. Whereas I think it was a lot more difficult for some of the other groups that have, a wider area to cover. So anyway, I'm just really optimistic about how this workshop will grow into more water conservation in our area, great communication campaigns, and hope that UWP can support that.
Thanks, Sonia. It was really great to have you join us, and it was an amazing event. I was blown away by how they were talking at the very beginning about how some of the groups were made up of people that didn't even necessarily know each other. They were from far spread departments and different entities in their communities, where their first thing was getting to know each other, which is like, I couldn't even imagine in our small world that's not necessary. So we're very fortunate in a lot of ways. Okay.
Thanks, Tanya.
To be continued on Thursday, right? And yes. Anything else on that one? If not, the next item on the agenda is item number 16, consideration and action on compensation adjustment for the town manager. With my name on it. As you all know, we had an executive session at the last meeting to discuss Preston's annual evaluation. Had a good discussion, and then this week I arranged for myself and Kevin to meet with Preston to talk about the outcome of that evaluation and compensation adjustment. And what we all agreed to is that, as with I think pretty much everybody else on staff this year, everyone's gone up one step on our, what do we call it, our salary schedule?
Step pay structure, yes, this is step structure.
So that's what we're recommending tonight. It's just the Preston go up one step on the town manager pay schedule, and that one step incorporates what we used to call both merit and cost of living increases, and is, what did we say, was it 3%? It's more than 3%.
Or what to go to the next step?
Yeah.
I don't know what the exact percentage is, but it includes what Logic Compensation Group coins cost of labor. So merit is included.
Right. So that's what we're, and I think we need a motion to ratify that. Is that right, Preston?
Yes, sir. Please.
So moved. Okay.
Second.
Yeah. Terry seconds. Russ moves. Terry seconds. Any other discussion? We all appreciate what a great job Preston does and continues to do. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? This is unanimously. There you go.
Thank you.
Which brings us to written and verbal reports, the town manager's report.
I had checked my issue there. Before you get your on this. Yeah,
I need to slam down.
but I want to give an update too.
Okay, go ahead.
This is about the space to create microgrid. The
Okay.
grant is due next Thursday, ironically, like everything else, which I'll be working on this weekend. I have completed the site assessment and the system design and the costing. So the load for the last year, we have over a year's worth of history of load in there. Is 3 times higher in the winter months than it is in the most recent months because, and I found this out today because I went over there to check again. There's electric baseboard heaters in that room. It's the only room in the whole building, I think, that is.
In the community room?
Yeah, so yeah, they have air source heat pumps in all the apartments, but it's.
Whose idea was that?
It was a surprise to me. But anyway, based on the load, the system will be a 5 kilowatt solar array, a 37 kilowatt hour battery bank, which will provide 1.5 days of backup power based on our current load without any load modification. So
For the building.
for the community center, for the technical. So it would be a 5 kilowatt array on the roof right along the south edge, maybe visible from parts of town, maybe most likely not, maybe from the highway, you can see it.
Stay for miles.
You might be able to, yeah.
I can see all this stuff on top.
Oh, you can, no, it's gonna be prettier than stuff up there. So the system's in the bag, the budget came in, the budget after the grant funding will be well within the budget we've already adopted. So that's all good news, but what I will need by the 16th is a letter of support to go into the grant. So I'm asking for the council to approve John to sign a letter of support for this grant. That's my ask.
Yes.
Sounds great.
Do we need a motion for that?
I have it noted.
What's that?
I think we're good. I think we're good.
Consensus
Direction.
direction.
Yeah, like the other grant, it's a non-committal grant, it's just enough to get us in the door for this grant will provide 66% up to, of the total cost after the 30% federal rebate. So take 30% off the top and the grant will provide 66% up to 94,000 for successful.
Is this for design?
It's for the whole thing, the design,
Construction.
Permanent Power Enterprises has done all the work pro bono so far.
Okay.
With the idea that they'd probably get the job, but I'm keeping an eye on the costs. They're being quite conservative. And so I'll send the president a copy of the grant application.
Okay.
If I get to it.
When would you know that if it's approved, the grant?
Good question. I think it's gonna be middle of February is what I read. Before we'll find out if we get the grant.
So when you have a chance, can you give me the numbers for the grant? So I'm gonna need that for the budget.
Okay.
Because I have the expenditure, but
Yeah. I'll have them by the 16th. That's when I have to submit the grant.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
Good.
All right, thanks, Terry.
Thank you, Tim.
Maybe you want to highlight in the town manager's report, Kristen?
Yeah, a couple things that weren't in there. Pam mentioned already, election results, at least unofficial. Very interesting. Overwhelming, yeah. 2-1. Solid, yeah, so.
500 and some votes, that's a
Yeah.
little lower than a regular town election, but not surprising.
Another thing that's not in there, got an update from All Points Transit today that the van has arrived and they've arranged for an inspection of the van on Friday. Do my best to get down there in person. They set up a Google or like a Zoom for folks who can't.
Go to
Did you
me,
get that?
I got that too. I'm not available for either virtual or in person, so I was hoping we could do it. Kind of short notice, I was a little.
Yeah, it's like really short notice, but just to make sure that it meets, everyone's expectations and what we all agreed to, so.
Did you get the invite for the go to meeting thing? Because it looked like I was the only one copied on it, but I think they must have, each person got it.
Yeah, I got it. So. At the Main Street Manager Summit that Tara went to not that long ago, I think, towards the end of October, Ridgway was elected by Peer Communities as Main Street of the Year.
Congratulations, Tara.
Yeah, so huge congrats. Yeah, that's awesome. And there's a really great photo of Tara, Larry, Gail, Tracy, and I'm forgetting the other gals on the far right, but they have such a great team there at Cobb's.
Yep, that's very cool.
Athletic Park Master Planning meeting on Monday, this next Monday, in this room, 5:30. Had a meeting with Cammie Willis at DHM today to get prepped for that meeting. The master plan, a draft of the master plan document and the final preferred concept design are ready to go, to be presented to the community that evening. And I'm really impressed with the work that they've done. DHM always does a wonderful job. The Trick's going to be presenting it and getting folks to buy in and understand that it's a publicly driven process. And at this point, we'll certainly be taking comments on anything and everything, but the focus will be on phasing plan. What'll also be presented is cost estimates to bring all the phases and all the elements of that plan to fruition. So looking forward to that.
Can I ask quickly on the women's, woman made comments earlier, Jean, yeah. Interesting points she brought up. So this final plan is the final plan, irrespective of comments like hers.
Good question. I would say no. There's still time for modifications, right?
Yeah, it's a master plan. It's a guiding document. It's not written in stone. It's not anything that's permanent and we have to follow. It's a guiding document. So,
but the final drawing may still be modified based on the people's input. I mean, the point that she made, I thought was material, was that a lot of the comments came in after we had deliberated as a council on it.
Yeah, so we had just gotten to a point where we needed input from the council, right? So that's how we got to that point. But the layout, we coined it the final preferred layout just based on the scope of work, but it could certainly be modified. It's not going to be modified based on majority input from members of the public who attend that meeting. It's going to be modified right here at Town Council. So December 13th is that next meeting where we'll have a master plan and lay out the whole shiny document as well. So that if there's any last minute type tweaks or modifications, that's the point.
Yeah, and I think, we're gonna have people who are frustrated because everything's trade-offs, and that's why we made that plan. Where we had a considered time to look at all of what was being asked, because we knew we couldn't just keep promising everybody that they could have what they wanted to have.
there's always going to be people that are going to be disappointed. And I was also going to have the written comments aren't the only input we've got. We've got tons of input from 2 different public meetings.
And all of our written comments are Ridgway residents.
Right. So, it's a delicate balancing act of trying to do what's right for the majority of people and the majority of interests and everybody happy. So, our youth are an important component of our community, even if they're not 50% of the community.
And if we build 8 pickleball courts, that gives us 667 pickleball courts per 1,000 people. And the #1 city in the country is Seattle at 20.5 per 100,000 people. So we're building a lot of pickleball courts for the size of Ridgway, even at 8.
That's some statistics right there.
Yeah. Dang. I also worked it out for the county, even if we include the entire county, we're building one for every 167. We're blowing everyone out of the water.
We're gonna have to make hay out of that.
So anyway, just saying.
You see a bunch of old people with rackets trying to charge.
I'm gonna show Katie Warner's whiteboard.
Just to round this out, I met with Susan Lacey, Russell Randolph, Sean Rowe, and a few, I think, just very engaged parents here at Town Hall a couple weeks ago to hear from that group what their plans are over at secondary school with all the land they have available, what they want to concentrate on. They have their ball field there off 62 near the elementary school. Their focus is, for the time being, is to, and I'm gonna read this for a sec, sorry, to construct an environmentally friendly artificial turf soccer field surrounded by an 8-lane track over at the secondary school. High jump, long jump, discus, and shot put areas will be included. This project includes the installation of a children's adventure playground, outdoor exercise stations, shaded seating areas, additional green space outside the track, be ecologically restored with environmental education opportunities accessible to the schools and greater community. Just trying to regurgitate some of what I heard. It was great to hear from them. The conversation shifted to that, the baseball field there near the elementary school. There does not seem to be a big desire at all from anyone in that group to restore that to, you know, a true baseball field. It's more for educational and learning purposes now. They're not, I don't want to speak for them, but it's not unwilling for, you know, Green County baseball, soccer, any other groups to still use that space when it's available. But they have a school board meeting. I think their next school board meeting is next Thursday evening, but we're here in our budget workshop. And I mentioned that there was a desire maybe for one or more of us here to attend that, have a conversation with them, and see, you know, hear more from them about what they want to focus on, you know, cost sharing opportunities, grant opportunities. The last thing I'll say is with this project I just highlighted that they're interested in pursuing, very soon they are interested in exploring a GOCO grant to help fund that project, which would require a local government to fiscally sponsor that. So they are interested in town applying for a GOCO grant for that project. So we spent a lot of time going over other projects that the town is wanting to focus on, long-term and short-term. At the budget retreat, we talked quite extensively about the playground here in Hartwell Park, which would fit the bill for a GOCO grant. And then of course we have all the athletic park stuff. So how does all that mesh? How can we partner when we have our own priorities? So
could you read the list of what they're looking at putting in?
Basically artificial turf and
a soccer
and a track. Yes, arch field and a track.
So does that influence what the park master plan is going to use?
Not necessarily.
I thought a lot of that was geared towards the idea that because there's no high school soccer field, you have to have more soccer space in the park.
Somewhat, but it's also, you know, for the tournaments and stuff, that one field at the school doesn't work for that sort of thing. So, I mean, it's
for the high school soccer.
Yeah, it's kind of a trade-off. I mean, I get what the woman here tonight was saying about, you know, maybe I saw it in a letter, just the size of the space required for soccer compared to the size required for the things. You know, I just don't think you can, it's not apples to apples. Soccer's hugely popular, and it's not popular just with kids. There's regular pickup soccer games out there all the time with adults, and you know,
But one of the spaces in the park is designed to be the regulation size for high school. They're gonna be funding that separately at their current location. I don't know if that should influence the.
But I think if you think about club soccer and you talk
I think
about
there's
the
need
age
for-
things, separating it from the park to the high school and assuming that we would have access to it at the high school is a big jump.
Which does underscore the need to have that pedestrian path, because there's gonna be a lot more traffic up there.
I have a
Separation.
in the conversation with Sean and Susan, did they have a commitment to hosting a high school baseball team? Should there be interest? Did that come up at all?
It didn't come up specifically. There's separate email chains with the county baseball group. And there's not really, there's a commitment to further explore it. I think they're going to a club level to start, you know, like walk.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anything else on that?
I don't think so.
That's great information.
Good.
Yeah.
We're still on the town manager's report, right?
Yeah.
Is there something else you're gonna cover?
There's a planned power outage on November 15th, actually, excuse me,
15th to 16th.
15th and 16th.
10 p.m. to 15 to 2 a.m. on the 16th.
And I had a great call with Alex Shelley the other day, who's doing a great job trying to get the word out at this point. Terry, do you mind talking to this? And
Which the Red Mountain or the power outage?
the power outage, you know, is there a forecast for how cold it's gonna be that evening? I don't understand how all furnaces run on electricity?
Yes.
Most do, well, at least they have electric
And-
controls, even if these gases is heat source. So yeah, it's gonna be an inconvenience. But it's when they try to time it when it's the most convenient, which is in the middle of the night and people are sleeping. You know, the cold's gonna affect the poor linemen that are out there working. But yeah, I mean, there could be an interruption and I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this is a needed upgrade in order to increase reliability.
Oh, yeah, it's important.
Why didn't they do it in the summer or this fall when there were?
Some of it has to do
people's
with
ears?
availability of materials. I mean, all of this, you know, it's just like trying to schedule anything. Or I don't know, I haven't been intimately involved in the plan. Usually I get handed this. I won't say turd, but I will, that I have to communicate to people. And because I'm transitioning out, that's why Alex is now stepping up the communication of the key accounts. Otherwise, I've been the one to have to deliver that message. Which I've managed to bag out.
The good news is the low is supposed to be 33 that night. And the high 55.
And it's 10 p.m. The feedback may be go to bed before 10 p.m. so you're in bed, you're warm, and by the time you wake up, your feet will be kicked off.
That's one thing for you and I to say, but people with.
I know.
With children, young children who can be sick, have colds, elderly, people who are living.
It's not gonna be that cold.
Insulated.
It's happening, I guess is what I'm not
It's
trying to sound
happening.
callous, other
Right.
than it's happening. So what can we do to mitigate things like?
Well, I think the word out.
And the mitigation is gonna come into our office because that's where we're gonna get the calls.
See, if we have the microgrid in the Decker, people come there and stay warm. That way stay powered.
Just a couple more things. We're working with CDPHE on technical support for service line inventory and line replacement planning that we're statutorily obligated to do by the end of put together by the end of October of 2020. Not a lot of time. Up there, there's a water and energy efficiency grant through Water Smart and Bureau of Reclamation that we're keeping a pulse on. There's a notice of funding opportunity that should open any day now and is expected to fund projects like hydropower, piping of canals, installation of renewables, a lot of the stuff that we just got done talking about and have talked about for quite some time. So just reporting, and we're keeping a close eye on the timeline for that. And last thing, tri-agency dinner, December 7th. On staff holiday party, December 9th. That's a Saturday. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great days.
Where's the tri-agency? Is it in the community center? Right?
I don't think they're doing it in the community. I think they're doing it somewhere else. But stay tuned.
Be new, but that's good. Looking forward to it. Your thing on the Blue Lakes visitor use management plan input, figured that I've been meaning to ask for weeks now, whether in the past, sometimes the council has weighed in on the forest management plan. I just had way too much on my plate to dig into that amount of detail, but I just thought I'd ask whether anybody has any interest in. In fact, we may have missed the public comment date. I don't know. I know this particular one on the Blue Lakes management plan goes on for a while longer, but I don't remember how long the actual latest GMUG plan comment period goes.
Oh,
It's early December, right?
December 3rd. Midnight.
Wait, is that for the Blue Lakes or
For
the
the Blue
GMUG
Lakes.
plan? The Blue Lakes plan is hefty, but it's not insane. as far as like a town perspective, other than weighing in to say, yes, please do something. And the thing that I really like about the plan is it has some triggers to become more restrictive as visitorship grow, as certain things happen. If waste isn't being managed or this isn't happening, it has some triggers to go to more restrictive things rather than starting with them or needing to do a whole new plan, which I think is a really great way to approach things. But outside of like the actual details of it, I don't know if it makes sense for town to know that.
Well, I just thought I'd mention it, see if anybody feels strongly one way or the other. It's probably okay.
Tanya had her hand up, then she put it down.
Tanya, did you want to weigh in?
I was just gonna let you know for the GMUG plan, the objection period is over. It was October 30th. And now there's going to be a period of letters of interest coming up. That will be as soon as they publish it in a newspaper. If you are interested in some of the objections, then you have only something like 8 or 10 days to get in a letter of interest. So that's that timeline. And then the Blue Lakes, it opened on October 17th and it's a 45-day period. And so I think that's around December 3rd or 4th or 5th. I haven't had a chance to look at it myself yet, but we probably will be commenting, yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Tanya.
You're welcome.
Lots going on.
Yeah.
Anybody have any comments, questions? Do you like the joke?
I like the joke.
Not, obviously not an Aspen.
You did.
I did because I can remember it.
That's the criteria.
Who gave you this one?
Google.
Really, we're down to the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. No one submits material. Polly does every once in a while.
All right.
Russ has.
So
I really need to get on the ball.
So
with that.
everybody,
I have that you've completely ignored it. I try to find jokes about town councils.
We can submit jokes.
We've been asking you.
We've been asking you to submit jokes forever. Anything you want to add, Bob?
I have a joke. You guys want to hear a joke?
Let's hear it.
How did the pumpkins cross the street? With the crossing gourd.
That's a really good dad joke.
Thank you, Mayor, for indulging me.
You're welcome. You're welcome anytime. You're always welcome. All right, so anybody have any committee reports? Are we done?
Go to Film Fest.
Go to Film Fest. Tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's. I really encourage you to come see that Skyline.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
And Johnny Zog is a local phenom, so. All right, unless I hear objections, I will say we are. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's my map. Everyone else.